That's a very cool garden. Thanks for opening up the gates for us. And right now we're going to be talking about a lot of very cool plants. I'm joined by Eric Pedley from East Austin Succulents, and welcome to Central Texas Gardener.
Thank you for having me.
Well, succulents are one of the hottest topics we cover here on Central Texas Gardener. People love these plants. Tell me, how did you get into growing succulents?
Well, I won some succulents in a raffle, and then I just became obsessed, and I used to make trips down to the Cactus Corral when they were going out of business, and they had 100 neglected greenhouses, and they were just weird, colorful, twisty things, and I just couldn't believe how many thousands of different varieties and shapes that were available. So I just kind of quit my job and went head first and just started making arrangements and selling them at markets around Texas, I'm still doing it today.
Well, you've brought you talk about the stunning variety of shapes and forms and colors that you get with succulents, and we're surrounded by incredible plants here that you carry in your shop. And I do want to let people know, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but you will be at the Zilker Garden Festival and a lot of other festivals this year where you're going to be selling arrangements and individual plants. But what we're going to do today is demo a variety of different things. You know, first off, we just want people to get an eyeful of all the different beautiful plants that are around. But then we also we're going to create some arrangements, talk about the soils, and also do a little propagation stuff, which I think a lot of people would be very curious about, because lots of people are collectors and they like to share their collections and trade back and forth. So we'll do all of those things. But starting off by talking about the arrangements, you've brought some that you've created here with you, including one that's right next to you, which I think is stunning. And I really, really love the way that one looks. So why don't we start by talking about that one?
Well, my friend Larry from Massive Concrete makes these planters, and usually I like to keep with a modern open look with a planter like this, but this is perfect because it's shallow so that water can evaporate. It has a huge drainage hole for drainage as well. But then sometimes I like to really pack arrangements too, and I think that's more popular with people. Just fit as many plants as I can into an arrangement so it's really lush and beautiful. And there's so many different colors and shapes to work with, you know. Usually I like a little height and you know, some small interesting things in the front, and then different gravels and top dresses and decorations to kind of add.
Well, you have a little piece of petrified wood in that one, and there's some you brought some smaller planters down that are down below here, and again, those are mixes of different things. And when you have all these different forms and colors, I think that's part of the joy of this, really, is finding the right combination of things.
It's important to grow things. You know, I grow a lot of things. I grow tomatoes and herbs and succulents, but it's also important to have an art project every once in a while, or if you need a present for somebody. You know, succulents make perfect, long-lasting gifts. You know, flowers die, but, you know, say you're having a wedding, you know, you could give those flowers to people, but if you have succulent arrangements, everyone can take home a present that can last a long time. So I'm primarily a grower, but I still love making arrangements. You know,
well, I think that's really cool. Now, we want to give some folks some kind of basics here in terms of creating planters. One of the first things I'd like to talk about, because I think this is something that I know lots of people have questions with, when you're talking about succulents or cacti for that matter, the soil really matters.
It does matter.
And you've got a couple different potting soils here we're going to show people.
This is Berger. It's spelled B-E-R-G-E-R, and this is a spawn of the Green Gate down in Seguin. They all use it, and they've created many growers, and they all love this. It's a really barky, fast-drying mix, and so it really works for cactus and succulents, deep pots, shallow. And so I use that, and I carry it, but it's not my favorite mix.
Okay, and I have to say, this is about as light as you can imagine.
Yes.
And so that's something that people can...
It's a safe, fast-draining mix.
Okay, now you brought another one,
but
too.
My favorite type of mix, and this is something I learned from Jim Small, who I consider the best grower in Texas, and this is a really cypress mulchy mix.
Okay, well, and you can see the cypress mulch
yes,
right
it's
here.
the most rot-resistant wood on the planet, and this just promotes really good roots. Sometimes you'll get a plant and it'll kind of fall out of the pot and have hardly any roots, and that's not good because your margin of error is decreased. You want big, healthy, strong roots.
Chunks of granite in here as
well.
well.
Granite, perlite, a pro mix. You want those roots to go work for water, and when there's big air pockets, they get bigger and stronger, so that if you don't remember to water or you overwater, there's just more room for error.
Okay, so this is something that you could sell, or people can blend it. They might take the Berger mix.
It takes work. The Berger is easy and quick, and it's sterile, and but when you take time to make a rocky, rough mix, you get better results.
Okay, cool. Now, in terms of making, creating a planter or an arrangement in a planter, you could use any number of different pots.
Anything.
But you brought, and I think these kinds of things work really well with the succulents that modern look like the first piece you showed us. They did seem to call out for these simple modern frames in a way.
Don't be afraid to use anything you have. You can use anything from your kitchen. Just use a drill bit, and you can see the holes that I've drilled there on the bottom.
Right.
This is a diamond drill bit, and they are expensive. They're about $15, but once you get into it, it's worth it to have one. So you can drill any container you have, so you make sure you have drainage.
That's smart.
Even glass you should drill. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just do this with no drainage and just barely water.
No.
You don't get good growth. You might maintain that plant for a while, but you don't get the flowers, and you don't get the,
And then,
plants.
and then comes the fun piece, which is arranging the plants. But also, you brought some things, and I think this is really cool when you're working with these kinds of things. You can ornament the top with gravel, or these are bits of glass brick almost.
And with all the live oak trees, there's so many different mosses and lichens you can throw in there, or old dead pieces of wood or seashells. But I work with a lot of glass, small sizes and big sizes like this.
Okay. And and again, choosing a light-colored gravel to complement maybe the darker succulents, or vice versa, works really well.
And you can make pathways, and you can make yin and yang signs. You could, it's fun to do these projects.
Endless possibilities on the arrangements. Now, propagation on these is actually a lot of fun to talk about, because, and I think it would surprise people, and there are a lot of different ways that you can go about it. One is simply just to clip a leaf off one of the plants, and it will root.
When I'm out selling, I always say, oh, that's an easy propagator, or easy cuttings, or that's a great leaf propagator, and people kind of look at me like they don't know what I'm talking about. But for example, this plant, I could just pop off all these lower leaves, just make a clean break against the stem like that. This is a Kalanchoe, or Kolankohi as the purists would say, that is just a prolific leaf propagator, as well as this one, just put out tons of plants off of one leaf, So I just have trays and trays of leaves, and it might seem weird to be saving trays of leaves, but most succulents are going to make a new plant, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
Well, I think that's really great, and as you were showing here, you could just pop the leaves off of this one.
Just make a clean break.
And that's easy to do on these plants. There you go. And then you can just root this.
You got it. You're propagating.
Yep. Very cool. And there are other ways to do it. Now, there's one here, and I think this is a real interesting one to show. This is one that was a very full plant at one point, but you can see in here where you've made some cuts.
This Senecio got a little tall for me, and I wanted to make more out of it, so I'll just cut it low. And eventually, when these grow up, you won't really see those wounds, or if you pack it full. But I do that with everything. I just go through and start cutting everything up. Once they get too high, or I need more of a particular thing, this plant, the tip fell off here, and that's fine for me. I'll just stick that in dirt again, and that'll grow.
Okay. Well, real briefly, you're going to be at the Zilker Garden Festival. You're also going to be down in San Antonio at the Cactus and Succulent Show down there. Definitely at the Zilker Garden Festival, people can find you and look for your arrangements there. They can also find you online, right?
Right. www.eastaustinsucculents.com. And you can come to the shop on 9502 South Chisholm. It's off Slaughter, in between South First and Manchac.
It's in South Austin, yet it's East Austin Succulents.
I started in East Austin, and I haven't changed the business name, but people find us. So
we've got to wrap it up. Thanks so much for being on the show. Coming up next is our friend Daphne.